Your confidence will always feel like arrogance to people who are insecure. I feel like this is one of the most misunderstood parts of growth and part of the growing process. As you come into the person that you're supposed to be, things around you tend to change. People around you tend to change. And it tends to seem like the moment that you start showing up for yourself, the moment that you stop performing humility, the moment that you start moving with confidence, that's a lot of times when people start acting a little bit funny. And it's usually not strangers. It's usually people who are close to you. It can be friends, it can be your family, people you've supported, and people who have supported you through you doubting yourself and going through things where you weren't quite sure where you were going. But as you start to grow into the person that you're becoming, and as you start to see your world open up a bit more and you start to get new opportunities and start doing different things, a lot of times people will start like kind of just picking at you. Like they'll start with like the little insults, little side jabs. And this isn't about like calling out people who are haters or anything. Some people just hate to hate. This is about the thought process that comes behind it, so that maybe we can all understand a little bit better why people act the way that they do and why people feel the way that they do, and how to navigate that as your life is changing. So the first thing that's really important to understand is that people interpret everything that you do through the lens of how they feel about themselves. This is really important to recognize, because when someone doesn't like themselves, your confidence doesn't inspire them typically. A lot of times it's going to irritate them, or it's going to make them feel a certain way. It's going to make them feel like you're not being genuine, or it's going to make them feel like you're trying to make them feel a certain way. And it's a lot of times not because what you're doing is wrong. A lot of times it can be, and you need to check yourself first. That's the first part. You always need to check yourself first, because sometimes it is you. Sometimes you're the problem. You make sure of that, because you can be like, oh, I'm just too confident. They just don't like me. Like sometimes you're just kind of a jerk. Like it can be you. So you need to check yourself first. But if that is not the case, it is still perfectly natural for your own genuine confidence and how you feel about yourself to irritate people and to make them feel a certain way. A lot of times confidence in one person will expose self-doubt in another. I feel like a good representation of this can be celebrities. You can see that a lot of times the very pretty, beautiful celebrity gets a ton of praise at first, and then they start growing into who they are as a famous person. They start looking better and better. They reach a new level of confidence, and then they're no longer relatable, and people start to kind of pick them apart. Everything that they do isn't perfect. They start to pick them apart. They start to point out their flaws. And all of a sudden, the person who everyone idolized and looked up to and thought they were all that, now all of a sudden, like, oh, well, they're arrogant. I don't like the way that she acts. I don't like the way that she does this. I don't like that. Oh, you saw she was talking to blah, blah. I don't like that either. See, she just gives me bad vibes. I don't know what it is about her, but I just don't like something about her. And that obviously doesn't only happen to celebrities. That's the same thing that happens in real life too. A lot of times as women, we're taught to be humble, to be grateful, not to ask for too much. Don't be too loud, too strong, too intimidating. Be soft, but don't be lazy. Be confident, but don't be like too proud. There's like a lot of rules and a lot of balance that people expect from women. And a lot of times, specifically Black women, are even more careful about how they have to portray themselves in order to be taken seriously, or in order to be seen as confident instead of arrogant, or direct instead of angry. So when you get to a point where you do feel that confidence in yourself, you're choosing yourself, you're deciding to go and, post the photos that you'd normally hesitate to post. You're starting the business that you had waited so long to start. You're moving out to the state that you decided that you wanted to go to because you're leaving your hometown. The response is a lot of times, you sure you want to do that? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? That's weird. I don't like that, But a lot of times it's other people being uncomfortable with themselves. I actually don't think that I've experienced this more than when I was moving from Michigan to LA. Everybody questioned me so heavily, and everyone was very upset. Not everyone, like obviously there are people who supported me too, but a lot of people who I expected to be happy for me and to support me and to feel good about it were just not having it. They did not like it. And yes, there's some level of concern whenever somebody that you care about starts a new chapter. That's normal. If somebody's questioning me like, okay, how are you going to pay for this? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? A lot of times they're looking out for you. Not everybody is a hater. But when they start making comments, like my old boss told me that I would never make as much money anywhere as I was going to make there if I would have stayed in Michigan. And that is crazy, first of all, because like the cost of living there is really low. It was really low in comparison to like LA or the other places that I've lived. When people say stuff like that, you're like, oh, something within you was triggered by something that I did or I said. Something that I'm doing with my life has triggered something in your life. So a lot of times when people see confident people or people who are doing big things or making big moves, they either want to label them as fake or undeserving. We see this a lot with girls who make soft life life content. And I see that because I make that type of content. So that's why I see it often there. There's plenty of other spaces on the internet where you see people treat women that way or talk to women that way. And I focus specifically on women because I don't know what it's like to be a man anyway. And this is, I think, why imposter syndrome happens so often with women, because as soon as I post something or as soon as I show something, especially if my husband is in it, then everything that's like successful about it or good about it is attributed to him and not to me, which is fine. I don't care. The problem with that is when people start to comment saying that I am undeserving. I don't deserve my lifestyle. I don't deserve what I have. And it's because they have to pick on something. They have to choose something and be like, well, she must not deserve it. She must not deserve it. That must not be, she must not work hard. She must not do this. She must not do that. She's fake. They're fake. Matter of fact, all of them are fake. And that just all comes down to the psychology of projection. So let's talk about what's happening beneath the surface. So projection is when people see something in you that reflects back to what they're not ready to face within themselves. It's like emotional displacement. You become a placeholder for the things that they haven't dealt with in their own mind. So that causes them to be upset with you, which is a normal human response. And I think that if we stop looking at it in a way of like, oh, well, this person is just hateful, they're just jealous, they're this, they're just that, and you try to understand where they're coming from and that their reaction is subconscious and they haven't worked through something yet, it's a lot easier to just, hey, take a step back. You don't have to deal with them. You shouldn't be dealing with them. This is why you shouldn't have friends who lack confidence and who still have a lot of things to work through within themselves. If you are a super confident person who tends to either get a lot of attention, receive a lot of success, or who just puts themselves out there, that's why a lot of times having friends who are insecure, they will just try to tear you down, because it's somewhat natural in certain areas. If they are confident, even if they want to get to the point where you're at, a lot of times they'll see you as somebody who is aspirational, not somebody who is, opposing them and who they need to fight. There's a difference between jealousy and looking up to somebody. When you're confident, a lot of times you look up to someone and you say, hey, I want to be like that at some point. I would like to do that. When you're insecure, you feel like, well, how come she gets to do that and I don't? And those are the types of people that you want to avoid. But understanding that a lot of times you are just a trigger to somebody, that makes things, at least in my mind, a lot better, because I want to know, why you randomly said this to me, or why you randomly were upset with me, or why you've been telling people that I'm fake, or why you've been doing whatever. If I understand why, I can understand a little bit more. And maybe at some point, once this person works on their confidence, once they grow, maybe they'll be able to understand that they were projecting as well. And that's, part of life and something that you work through and that you grow through. So let's bring everything that we talked about together. What do we do with this information? You need to know and keep in mind that your confidence is not actually a threat, even though it feels like one sometimes to other people. Confidence is just a signal to the world that you are happy with who you are, that you love who you are, you love who you're becoming, and you're allowed to show that outwardly. You don't have to perform to make other people feel comfortable. I think that you should be kind, you should be compassionate, and you should understand that a lot of times when people are projecting, they don't know that they're projecting. So sometimes you just need to have a little bit of patience with them. And that doesn't mean that you have to keep people around who are insulting you. I absolutely don't think that you should do that. If somebody's disrespecting you, you don't need to be a part of their life. But for your own acceptance and your own forgiveness, I think it's really important to understand that a lot of times people don't know why they're acting out. That's part of the key to not being stressed over situations, to try to understand where the other person is coming from. That helps you to not be stressed over it and be like, well, what did I do? I don't know what I did. Sometimes it's within them and you can't necessarily fix that, but you can understand from your perspective and keep that in mind. A lot of people will be very inspired by your confidence. That's something to keep in mind too. Like I said, not everybody is a hater. Most people are not haters in general. They're just mostly not haters. At least in my opinion, that's how I like to look at the world. But a lot of times you make people realize that they want more in their life too. And that's pretty cool. If your confidence is triggering people, that's okay. Continue to ask for what you want. Continue to be who you are. Continue to stand confidently. Some of those people will grow. Some of those people will learn. Some of those people will realize that they were projecting onto you. And maybe they'll come back into your life and apologize and understand better later. And then it's up to you if you want to continue with that. But people growing is always what I hope for. The world needs as many confident women as possible to shine without apology and to be kind enough to do it without ego and to do it with understanding. And if that makes people uncomfortable, that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, or if you have any topics for me to talk about, let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Also, if you have more video ideas for me, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to try to do them. If you want to follow me on my other socials, I will put them on the screen. It's Kate Swan. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.